All right. Sport Beach. Great to see everyone out here. We have an excellent lineup today. Beautiful view over here, Kathleen. But what I'm excited about today and what you're going to hear from folks up here and what they're going to talk about are real world, albeit ambitious, applications of AI and AR in sports. You're going to hear from folks who are making things happen, and you're going to hear it through the lens of an entrepreneur, of a chief brand officer, and an investor in the space. So Kathleen Hall, again, Chief Brand Officer at Microsoft, who spearheaded some incredible work across the WNBA, the NBA, the NFL, exactly, Allison. And I would be remiss if I didn't call out Kathleen. We're in the presence of professional athletes, and you yourself, I would say, won the gold medal in terms of marketing. You are the 2021 Cannes Lions Creative Marketer of the Year. We've got to acknowledge that. Excellent. Again, through the lens of the entrepreneur, so we have Josh, the founder of Around, a shared AR platform. And through the lens of an investor, Mark Penn, who needs no introduction, but the chairman and CEO of Stagwell and former chief strategy officer at Microsoft, who's championed this space and invested in it for years. So without further ado, let's get to it. I'd love for this to be a discussion, but Kathleen, I'd love to start with you. Can you share a little bit with us about how Microsoft is deploying AI across sports? And as Chief Brand Officer, what type of storytelling that unlocks for you and the experience for the customer?
Awesome. Well, first, Elspeth, I thought you were going to bring up my New York State Championship second base heritage when you started down that path. But
I love
just
that.
Marketer of the Year, no big deal. Anyway, we're doing a ton. We were kind of early entries in the AI application to sports. Some of the things you may have seen is how we're integrating the NBA. A lot of it's around performance enhancement and fan enhancement through the data exposure that they get, so you get a little more involved in the game. So NBA was an early entry. One of our first entrants was Formula One racing, actually. So we've been sponsors of the Alpine, Renault. The names change sometimes, but I mean, racing generates about 50 billion pieces of data in a race. It's phenomenal. So we have sensors on the cars, we've got sensors in the air, on the wind. We look at human interaction with the vehicle, and then all of that data is analyzed to optimize. Because, in a lot of sports, it's a nanosecond of difference or a nanosecond of performance delta that makes the difference between win or lose. When I worked on the PGA, they used to say, hey, one stroke is the difference between top 100 and not sometimes. So a lot of it's around that. We work with the WTA. We want to make sure we're really engaging with women's sports. The Billie Jean King Cup is sponsored by Microsoft. And a lot of that is around, again, data and the experience to benefit both the player, the fan, and the team. That's kind of the triangle. So those are just a few. I could keep going, but it's long.
So going back to that, I want to dig a little bit deeper. Player, fan, team. How is the work that you're doing and the billions of data that you're collecting changing the experience? And what are some of those shifts that you're seeing?
I think the biggest shift that we will see is, I think the primary focus in the first instantiation of AI in sports has been around data, very performance oriented. I feel like the next sort of, frontier is fan engagement. And I don't think we've quite gotten there yet. I think maybe the NBA work we did with the Michelob fan experience was kind of that, with, having people be able to engage in the game. But I think the idea of, fans being able to enhance what they're seeing with AI is going to be the next frontier. And it's not quite there. It's too data-driven right now.
Well, that is a perfect way to tee up Josh and the work that he's doing. Wonderful job, Kathleen, for Around, which is a shared augmented reality platform that Josh has built within Stagwell, and it's delivering the future of in-game sports entertainment. I want to play a video quickly to give you a sense of what Around is, and then we're going to hear from Josh a little bit more about how he built it and how that's transforming the fan engagement experience. Excellent. So, Josh, what we just saw is a teaser video from some of the work that you're doing with the MLB's Minnesota Twins, but of course, you've worked across with the LA Rams, the Cavaliers, and the NBA. Just first and foremost, tell us around what is it? How does the fan interact with it?
Thank you. Around is a first of its kind fan engagement platform and new media platform that really allows fans to be part of the action. We know that people come to the game to feel closer to the team, to the players, and to other fans, and we're really trying to remove those barriers and take these passive opportunities and make them highly interactive, highly immersive, and highly engaging through immersive content and through stats.
Let's touch upon stats a little bit more. I know with the MLB's Minnesota Twins, you're launching Stats AR. Can you talk a little bit about that and the fan that's catered to and what that's unlocking?
Yeah, so that's all about real-time content. I mean, the more you can be relevant and contextual, the more meaningful you're going to be. And so what we've done is we've actually integrated with sports APIs, and we can drive live stats and live content directly coupled with what's happening on the field. And so when you see a hit, you're not only going to see where it goes, but you're going to see content associated with that. And so it's really trying to make it more entertaining, more engaging, and more educational for all types of fans.
And I know you built a custom experience here for Sport Beach. Tell us a little bit about it and how folks can engage with it.
Yeah, so really it's a demonstration to show how this is an opportunity to take your brand and really make it more approachable with the audience. Really thinking about this form of interactive entertainment where you give some ownership over to your fans and they can start to express themselves within that space. Another part of it is player personalities. We heard across sports that they're really trying to have these helmet-off moments where people can create closer connections between player and fans. And one way we're doing that is by making the player larger than life, expressive, and very interactive with the fan itself. And then finally, it's about how do we tell the player's story. And so with the Cheryl Soups experience, we have a game that allows you to kind of progress through it. And as you're doing that, you're understanding all the different achievements that Cheryl accomplished. And the true highlight was actually having Cheryl play it yesterday and really seeing her that this is a great expression for players to really allow themselves to be more approachable in a way where they are kind of coupled to the field. And this is really allowing a new relationship that hasn't existed before.
All right, Mark. Well, what about you? What do you think about the evolving role of AI and AR in sports, and where are we heading?
Well, I don't think we know where we're heading. I think that I know that in every science fiction, in every science fiction movie, AI heads to the destruction of all humans. So let's hope we're not.
I'm leaving.
Let's hope we're not heading to there, but instead heading to really where the human reigns supreme and AI serves to extend the human experience to make it better, easier, more fulfilling. And I think that that's going to require a lot of work, right? And obviously that's bigger than sports. What I like about sports and AI is the athlete or the human is at the center, right? And so much in the way we interface with technology and the way we say, hey this or hey that, puts actually the bot at the center. And in sports, AI is the servant to helping us understand with data and information, how athletes can be better, what their accomplishments really mean, what we as fans can really understand what they've done. So I think, and I think what Josh is doing, and of course what Microsoft is doing, is really path-breaking, right, in terms of using particularly, AI is one thing, but Josh is really big into the AR, right? And what we've really seen is VR or the metaverse kind of bombed out, but I believe that AR is in fact going to be a big deal, and that in the future I'll have glasses and I'll be able to identify each one of you and know your interests, and so I can come back and kind of respond to what I think would be interesting to you. We're just touching the surface of where this is going to go.
Yeah, I think if I add, I think Josh had a really good point around kind of the fan engagement, fan enhancement, but also humanizing sports. I don't know if you remember, but in the middle of COVID, the draft had to go on for the NFL. and they're like, how the hell are we going to do the draft without having everybody come to Vegas? And what Vegas is, it puts everybody in suits and jewels and makes them all look like these fancy rich guys. And what happened was when we went to their houses and we set up teams, you now see a kid with his parents and his aunts and uncles in the middle of Iowa somewhere, and you see Roger Goodell in his man cave in his basement. So in a weird way, technology humanized those people and actually made it more accessible and relatable. So there is opportunity there, and that's what you were talking about.
I think that's a great example of technology humanizing sports. And on your point on the metaverse, nobody's talking about it this year. I think what's great about this panel is the application, the real world application of how we're deploying AI and AR in sports. And I would argue we've only just scratched the surface. To that point, Mark, I want to, you've been a technologist for decades and you've invested in this space and now leading Stagwell, why do you as chairman and CEO invest in emerging technologies like AI and AR, and what does that mean to a network like Stagwell and where you're going?
Well, I think the vision of Stagwell really is to serve the transformation of marketing all the way from full-service global down to self-service technology. And that it's important to leverage kind of the $5 billion in media that we now manage, the experiences with clients that we have in order to build technology that really is going to be effective in the marketplace. I'm very proud of where Josh has gone with the Around product. Also, Profit, I think, is an incredible product. prprofit.com, take a look at it, kick the tires. If you're a communications professional, it helps you write the news release. It helps you see who's going to cover it, who's going to cover it favorably. It helps you draft your pitches. It rewrites the tone of your pitches and sends them out. So it takes 6-7 hours of work, collapses it to one, and it's a really great example of how quickly we're incorporating generative AI into the kind of products we're making available. And look, I've always been that way. Look, when I originally started polling, we didn't have the PC. I read about a computer in a magazine, ordered one, built it, soldered the circuit boards together, programmed it in assembler, and we had overnight polling. And so I was always about, the application of technology to everyday life and everyday tasks. And so I think it's really important that we live that at Stagwell as well.
Kathleen, I want to circle back to you, and you talked a little bit about the work that Microsoft's done in the past across various sports leagues, and I'm curious as you look to the future, how does the work that you've done in that space serve as a blueprint for other areas Microsoft wants to explore and tell stories and connect with the customer?
Well, I think what it's done is really show us the value of the human centricity of things, like kind of like Mark's point. I'm making both of their points, so you can just leave.
Perfect.
Great stories make for great connection, and I think underneath the technology is what it does for people, which is our whole concept of empowerment. And when you see what they do with it and how inspiring it is, it actually creates great love for the brand. So that's kind of the leverage that I see in this, and the kind of beauty of it is the storytelling potential.
And if I just, Kathleen and I worked together at Microsoft for a number of years, and one of the projects we did was a Super Bowl ad, right? And the Super Bowl ad really is a good example of how technology helped those who needed help speaking, hearing, walking in a dramatic and emotional way.
Yeah, and in true form, it was probably the cheapest Super Bowl spot ever done, because almost every clip in it was found footage from the internet of how people were using our products, real people. Yeah.
I was going to say that. I wasn't sure that I remembered, but I think there's only one shoot in the whole thing.
Yeah,
right?
just Steve Gleason. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I was going to ask, is there a favorite campaign in the area of sports that you've worked on?
Oh, absolutely. There's two I would have to go to.
Tell us.
One is that spot. I think it was our first real coming out party as marketers. Don't forget, we used to be the fat guy in the I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads. Like, Microsoft had no right to be anywhere. So who the hell were we to be on the Super Bowl? So that was job one. And then the strategy that we really worked on was, what's so true about Microsoft that it can't be assaulted? You can't challenge it. Like, no one could say, oh, that's bullshit, right? but then also what is the social relevance and contextual relevance. So the things that lined up there, truth, social relevance, contextual relevance, was we actually empower people to live better lives. And the contextual relevance of the Super Bowl was Steve Gleason, who some of you may or may not know, a former New Orleans Saints player who developed ALS, used our technology to continue to speak and communicate, but smartly kept his voice intact in terms of the technology in the future so his son would know his voice. So anyway, so Steve was really the bookend of the stories of empowerment. So that triangle kind of came together in a magical way. And I answered that one so long I forgot my second one. My second one is the Xbox adaptive controller spot. And again, the magical triangle of, adaptability and inclusion was a societal trend. The product truth was we actually built this with and for the community, and it performed. And the contextual relevance we had to work on, because it's like, why do we put video gaming in the Super Bowl? And we're like, you know what? Because when everybody plays, we all win. So the magic was there. So the Owen Super Bowl spot, I think, those two are my favorites.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, I want to shift a little bit and talk about the blended living room of the future, where a new era of mixed reality exists in sports. Josh, I know at the round you've started to dabble in this with the at-home experience. What we saw mostly was folks in stadium, but I know you're starting to lean into this. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you're doing. And this is open for everyone, but Josh, I want to hear from you about what that future looks like.
Great. First of all, I'm going to play off what you said, Kathleen, in terms of the power of contextual relevance. I mean, that is what communication is all about, is how do you really understand the context and then deliver the right message to that. When you're watching sports at home, I mean, you see the sports, but you don't have the context of the other fans, what's happening in stadium, other types of the atmosphere. And so what we're able to do with the round is not only bring people together in stadium, but mirror that experience to the at-home. And so we're really thinking about how we can transfer that energy and excitement and really expand the community of fandom so everybody can feel a part of it and associate it with it in different ways.
And your first job, Josh, is to do the sing-along that happens in the 7th inning at the Red Sox game so we can do Sweet Caroline together at home. That's the thing I miss most about going to Red Sox games.
Sponsored by Microsoft. I love it.
There you go.
Let me just say about the living room of the future. I mean, the first question is, are we going to have a living room, right? And I think actually the living room may be coming back, right? So I think you really have to say, at the end of the day, do people want a small screen experience or a big screen experience, right? And really, and I was talking to a client yesterday that, wow, socialization, big screens, sports, don't forget that that's an incredible triangle. Part of what makes sports so fascinating and so interesting to people is the commonality that they have in terms of understanding the teams and the players and the stats. And, I remember, I wish I were more, I'm not as good a sports nut as I was as a kid. As a kid, I was unbeatable in terms of, like, the stats and so forth.
And players, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that whole part of it, but so that's where I wonder, we've gone small screen in so many things, and we've seen in the cinema, big screen coming back, if you can produce something that can hold people's interest. And I think the same thing for sports. If they can produce the experiences that continue to hold people's interest, they bring back socialization, big screen, and the fun around that.
Yeah, it's the last frontier of communal viewing at scale and experiences. Like back in the day, dating myself, like who shot JR? The next morning, everybody would talk about it. Now, you're watching Succession while I'm watching Attorney Woo, while she's watching Ms. Maisel, and eventually we can connect, but it's not instantaneous and it's not at scale. The only thing really left that does that is sports. So it's a great opportunity.
Though I have watched all three of those.
Okay, we can talk later. Attorney Woo is amazing. I'm recommending all.
I'll double that recommendation.
Okay, yeah. Korean, watch it with subtitles. Don't
now,
do the
now
dubbing.
the AI thinks that I watch exclusively Korean shows.
I watch it. That's the same thing with
Prompts me.
I'm in a Korean rat hole right now.
The perils of AI.
Blog.
Well, to that point around folks getting in on the action, one of the things you hear a lot is building mass intimacy. How do you, at scale, but build that intimacy? And it's a phrase I've heard a lot here, and I'm curious, from all of your perspectives, what does effectively enabling mass intimacy look like? Like, what is that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's first sharing, so you're able to see people, and I mean, that's one thing that the internet has not done a great job of, is you really can't see what's on the other side of that. When you're at a stadium, you know that there's a person there, and so when you're cheering, I mean, you're playing off of the other person in a really fun way. And so that's really what we're trying to do with the round, is allow that to become a fully interactive experience where you're able to throw stuff out there and see the same person or the person sitting next to you do the same thing. And when you start to do that, that energy starts to build, that excitement builds, and those connections really start to grow stronger.
I actually hadn't heard the phrase, and I love it because I think
Excellent.
it's what I've always tried to aspire to be about. And it's funny as the world becomes, supposedly this is the loneliest generation. I have 27-year-old twins. I'm like, do you see people ever? Like, do you go bowling? They're like, well, oh my God, you're an idiot. So there's isolation, right? No one's connected anymore physically or literally. So I think this idea, and the other thing is, ethnically and sex and like all these divisions. And what I find is people are humans. And I don't have to be a person that has limited dexterity to appreciate what that inclusion looks like. Or I don't have to be an African-American woman to appreciate that when we're styling her for a shoot, she said, I like my hair natural. And we're like, go natural. Boo-rah, and suddenly the internet blows up because of natural hair. Like, it's just human. And so I think the mass intimacy is a great phrase. I love it. Because it's not about making everything separate for everybody, even though you can. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. I think the commonality is what's important.
Well, and sports is such a great way to do that, bringing people around that shared passion and then tapping into that massive intimacy around the players, the teams, the fandom, the folklore, so on and so forth.
If only politics could be like sports. You like the Jets, I like the Giants, but don't we still love football? That doesn't happen anymore.
All right, we just have a few minutes left. Obviously, this is the mecca of marketers here at Cannes Lions, and I'm curious, this group of technologists up here, what advice do you have for brands and marketers and who are looking to lean into this space but have been hesitant to date? How should they think about the opportunity space, the power of technology and sports to connect with their customers?
You go first.
All right. Look, I think Sport Beach was really born to test the marketplace, right? And to see what the interest would be among marketers for the combination of sports and technology. And what I can report, based on the about 5,000 people that came to Sport Beach and the tremendous reception, that this is an incredible frontier for marketers. That the combination here of both augmented reality, creating enhanced experiences, new forms of data, AI enhancement of kind of what we expect out of sports and what happens relative to what we think is going to happen. I think all of this says that this is an incredible area because, I think the point you made is like the old, we watch all the sitcom at the same time is gone. And so news and sports are the only real two common live events that we can all share. And both of those are going to be enhanced and made more universal through technology.
Yeah, football is life. I think my
He was
advice.
here. He was here.
Oh, I got pictures with him. Nothing blew up on my family Instagram more than I had Danny's picture. That was the biggest deal ever. I think the advice I would give is it's not about data. Like, it's not about math is not marketing. And I think people get obsessed with like what AI can do with data, and I love it too. But it's about the speed to insight that AI can give you as a marketer. That's the value. So I get a little worried sometimes that we become about math.
And I would say to the brands out there that I feel that the future of marketing is interactive storytelling. And so what that means is that you really have to start to think about how you bring the consumer into the experience, allow them to contribute it, and that's going to really want to make them share it out there. And so those experiences, whether it's augmented, generative, or other, will really drive the future of engagement.
And thank you, Kathleen. My whole career was putting some math in marketing.
But it wasn't about
But
the
not
math,
too
Mark.
much.
You'd
Not
be
too
the
much.
first one to say it was about
Yes.
the insight, right?
I always used to say numbers plus creativity equals strategy.
That's us.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate